You're sitting in the library at 11 p.m. You've been there since 6. 5 hours. Your eyes are heavy. Your back hurts. You've read the same paragraph 3 times and you still couldn't tell someone what it says. The coffee stopped working 2 hours ago. You're not learning. You're just sitting in front of an open book, suffering. And the worst part isn't the exhaustion. The worst part is the guilt. Because if you close that book and go home, you'll feel like you failed. Like you didn't try hard enough. Like the reason your grades aren't where you want them is because you aren't putting in enough hours. So you stay. Another hour, maybe 2. You stare at words your brain stopped processing ages ago. And when your exam results come back and they're still mediocre, you know exactly what everyone is going to say. Your parents, your teachers, your friends. They'll all tell you the same thing. You just need to study more. I'm going to tell you something that might feel uncomfortable at first, but will change everything once it clicks. That advice, that universal, well-meaning, completely standard piece of academic guidance, is the single most counterproductive thing anyone has ever told you about learning. Not because effort doesn't matter. It does. But because study more conflates time with learning. And those two things are not the same. They're not even close. Let me explain exactly why. The reason we believe that more study time equals more learning is because we're applying a mental model from physical labor. I call this the factory floor fallacy, and it's the root of the entire problem. If you're digging a ditch, the relationship between time and output is linear. 1 hour of digging equals 1 unit of ditch. 2 hours equals 2 units. 10 hours equals 10 units. It scales perfectly. More time always equals more output. And for most of human history, work looked like this: physical, repetitive, linear. So we built our entire culture, including our education system, around this assumption. More hours equals more results. The hardest worker wins. The person who puts in the most time gets the most reward. But cognitive work doesn't function like physical labor. Learning is not digging a ditch. When you study, your brain isn't performing a mechanical, repeatable action. It's doing something infinitely more complex. It's encoding new information, connecting it to existing knowledge, building neural pathways, compressing concepts into retrievable chunks. That process requires energy, focus, and specific neurological conditions that degrade rapidly over time. And that degradation is not gradual, it's steep. Which brings us to the most important graph you'll ever see as a student: the law of diminishing cognitive returns. Here's what the research shows. When you sit down to study fresh, alert, and focused, your brain operates at something close to maximum encoding efficiency. Let's call it 100%. Everything you engage with has a strong chance of being processed deeply and stored. After about 60 to 90 minutes of concentrated work, that efficiency starts to drop. Not slowly, sharply. By the 2-hour mark, you're operating at roughly 60% efficiency. You're still learning, but significantly less per minute than you were at the start. By hour 3, you're at maybe 30%. Your attention is fragmented, you're rereading sentences, your mind is wandering to your phone, to dinner, to tomorrow's schedule. You're physically present, but cognitively absent. By hour 4, you're at roughly 15%, and by hour 5, the one where you're sitting in the library at 11 p.m., you're at maybe 5%. You are doing almost nothing. You are generating enormous fatigue, enormous stress, and almost zero actual learning. Here's what this means in practical terms. That 5-hour library session you just endured did not produce 5 hours worth of learning. It produced maybe 2 hours worth of actual encoding, stretched across 5 hours of suffering. And here's the part that should make you furious. If you had studied for 2 focused hours and then gone home, you would have learned approximately the same amount, maybe more, because you wouldn't have been exhausted. Which means the quality of your encoding in those 2 hours would have been higher. You sacrificed 3 extra hours of your life, your sleep, your mental health, and your social connections for essentially nothing. That's not dedication. That's waste. And the advice that led you to do it, study more, is what caused it. But it gets even worse than diminishing returns. Because most students who study more aren't even studying during those extended hours. They're doing something that looks like studying, feels like studying, takes up as much time as studying, but produces almost no learning whatsoever. It's called pseudo-studying, and it's an epidemic. Pseudo-studying is any activity that mimics the surface features of studying without engaging the cognitive mechanisms that actually create learning. And it's everywhere. Here are the most common forms. Rereading your notes, you move your eyes across the page, you feel productive, but your brain isn't encoding anything new because rereading is passive recognition, not active retrieval. Your eyes see the words, your brain says, yep, I've seen this before, and absolutely nothing sticks. Highlighting your textbook. You drag a bright yellow marker across sentences. The page looks colorful and productive, but you haven't processed the meaning of what you highlighted. You've just identified what looks important. That's curation, not learning. Rewriting your notes in a prettier format. This one is especially deceptive because it takes a long time and feels deeply productive. But unless you're actively transforming the information, reorganizing it, connecting it, generating new explanations, you're just doing arts and crafts with words. Watching lecture recordings at 2 times speed. You feel efficient, you're covering material fast, but the speed that matters isn't how fast you can consume information, it's how deeply you can process it. Consuming at high speed usually means processing at 0 depth. And the final one, sitting in the library with your textbook open while checking your phone every 3 minutes. This isn't studying. This is a low-quality leisure activity wearing a study costume. Here's the terrifying truth about pseudo-studying. You can spend 8 hours doing it and feel completely exhausted afterward. You can tell your friends and family that you studied all day, and you genuinely believe it, because you were physically present in a study environment for 8 hours. But your brain didn't learn anything. The fatigue is real, but the learning isn't. This is why study more is such dangerous advice. It doesn't distinguish between real studying and pseudo-studying. It treats all hours as equal. And when a student who is already pseudo-studying for 5 hours hears study more, they don't suddenly start studying better. They add more hours of pseudo-studying. They go from 5 unproductive hours to 7 unproductive hours. They're more exhausted, more burned out, more miserable, and exactly as far behind as before. The problem was never the quantity of study time. The problem was the quality. And no amount of additional quantity will fix a quality problem. So if more isn't the answer, what is? Here's the framework that replaces study more. I call it the quality equation. And it's simple enough to write on a napkin. Work accomplished equals time spent multiplied by intensity of focus. That's it. Most students only see the first variable, time spent. So when they want to increase their work accomplished, the only lever they know how to pull is time. Study longer, stay later, wake up earlier. But look at the equation. There are 2 variables, and intensity of focus is not just equally important, it's the dominant variable. Because time is limited. You only have so many hours in a day. And as we've just seen, those hours degrade rapidly in quality. But intensity can be controlled directly. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. A student who studies for 4 hours at an intensity level of 3 out of 10 produces 12 units of work, 4 times 3. A student who studies for 90 minutes at an intensity level of 9 out of 10 produces 13.5 units of work, 1.5 times 9. 90 minutes beat 4 hours. Not because the student is smarter, not because they have better genes, but because they maximize the variable that actually matters. This is the paradigm shift. Stop asking how many hours should I study. Start asking how intensely am I studying during the hours I have. And that leads directly to the practical solution. I call it constraint-based studying, and it's built on a psychological principle called Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law states that work expands to fill the time allotted for it. If you give yourself all evening to study 1 chapter, you will use all evening. You'll read slowly, you'll take breaks, you'll check your phone, you'll reread paragraphs you already understood. The work will expand to fill every available minute. But if you give yourself 90 minutes and a hard stop, something completely different happens. Your brain recognizes the constraint. It shifts into high-intensity mode. Suddenly, you're focused. You're skipping the parts you already know. You're going straight to the hardest material. You're testing yourself instead of rereading. You're working with urgency and precision instead of lethargic sprawl. The constraint doesn't reduce what you accomplish. It compresses it into a tighter, more intense window. And because of the quality equation, that compressed, high-intensity session produces more learning than the sprawling, low-intensity marathon. Here's how to implement this starting today. Rule 1. Every study session must have a hard stop time. Not I'll study until I'm done. Not I'll study until I feel ready. You set a specific end time before you begin, and you honor it no matter what. This single change will immediately raise your intensity, because your brain knows the clock is ticking. Rule 2. Define what done looks like before you start. Not study biology. That's vague and invites pseudo-studying. Instead, complete 20 flashcard retrievals on Chapter 7, then write a 1-page explanation of cellular respiration without notes. When the task is specific, your brain can focus. When it's vague, your brain wanders. Rule 3. Protect your high-performance window. You have roughly 90 minutes of peak cognitive capacity per session. Don't waste that window on low-value activities like rereading or reorganizing notes. Use your peak window for the hardest cognitive tasks: active retrieval, problem-solving, the Feynman technique. Save the easy stuff for later when your brain is already tired. Rule 4. Rest is not the absence of productivity. Rest is a study strategy. When you stop studying after 90 focused minutes, you are not being lazy, you are being strategic. Your brain consolidates information during downtime, during sleep, during walks, during doing absolutely nothing. If you skip rest to add more hours, you're not studying more. You're sabotaging the consolidation process that makes studying work. This connects directly to everything we've covered on this channel. When we talked about brain modes, we learned that deep processing requires build mode and puzzle mode, both of which demand high cognitive energy. You cannot access those modes in hour 5 of a library marathon. You can only access them when you're fresh, focused, and alert. When you study for 5 low-intensity hours, you spend almost the entire time in sponge mode, passively absorbing surface-level information that will be gone by next week. When we talked about the forgetting curve, we learned that retention depends on strategic retrieval, not raw exposure time. Reading the same page 10 times doesn't beat retrieving the information once from memory. More time spent rereading is not more learning. One focused retrieval attempt is worth more than an hour of passive review. And when we talked about the Feynman technique, we learned that the deepest encoding happens when you actively generate, not passively consume. That generation requires energy, focus, and intensity, all of which are destroyed by extended, unfocused study sessions. Everything in this channel points to the same conclusion. It was never about how much. It was always about how well. So if you're watching this video at midnight, exhausted, with a textbook open in front of you that you stopped actually reading 2 hours ago, I need you to hear this. Close the book, go to sleep. You are not quitting. You are not being weak. You are not falling behind. You are making the scientifically correct decision, because that book will teach you nothing tonight. But 8 hours of sleep will consolidate everything you actually learned today. And tomorrow, when you sit down fresh for 90 focused minutes, you will accomplish more than you did in the last 3 hours combined. The people who told you to just study more meant well. They wanted you to succeed, but they were giving you advice from the factory floor. And you are not digging a ditch. You are building a brain. Build it with precision, build it with intensity, and then walk away and let it set. If this changed how you think about studying, subscribe, because every video on this channel replaces broken advice with science that actually works. I'll see you in the next one.